Anyone who's at LaVell Edwards Stadium last Saturday experienced one of the more raucous and loud environments in all of college football. We're going to ask a guy who is right in the middle of all of it in Connor Pay as he joins us for his weekly visit on the podcast. We look back at that Kansas State win, where the vibes are for BYU right now as they get ready to head to the Baylor Bears in a big matchup in Waco.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first view or listen of the day. And, of course, a big thank you to all of you who we like to call everydayers right here on your original daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, courtesy of FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Please welcome in now BYU team captain Connor Pay for his weekly visit here on the show. And Connor, in the aftermath of that win over Kansas State, did you enjoy yourself a beefy 5-layer burrito?
No, I did not. And based off of the tweets that were sent to me, my desire for a beefy 5-layer burrito has tanked, unfortunately. So I don't think I'll be having one anytime soon, considering where I know one of those inevitably has to go.
Well, and the guy who, the Twitter account that famously put up that tweet, he keeps teasing it's going to happen this Saturday. And it's just, all right. Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty grossed out considering what might happen. But nonetheless, big win over Kansas State for you guys. I think most people going into that game were like, okay, let's see how BYU does in this. And then first, let's see, you have 30 minutes in the first half. So the first 28 minutes of that first half, BYU fans are probably sitting there, okay, 6-3. Let's see if we can get to halftime and see what we can do in the second half. Then all of a sudden, things turn. Jack Kelly punches the ball out. Tommy Prassis scoops it up and returns it for 6. Then they force an interception that Tyler Batty, of all people, intercepts. You guys 2 plays later punch in a touchdown and a phenomenal throw from Jake Retzlaff to Chase Roberts. And just like that, you guys are up 17-6. So just fill me in. How did it feel? And obviously you guys went on in the second half to dominate them, a 38-9 win overall. But give me your sense coming off that, how you guys feel about the victory overall.
Good. It was complementary football at its finest, I think. Every different team, offense, defense, and special teams, relied on each other in that game, and it was really awesome to be able to get set up so well by the defense, because I think we ran 46 plays as an offense. We did not run a lot of plays. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that we were starting on our own side of the 50 most of the game, and so it doesn't take that many plays to go 35, 40 yards. And, you could look at the stats on offense and you're like, man, that's not a great game, pretty average, maybe even below average stats wise. And then you didn't realize we were driving the length of our field, like almost every drive, and it's so it just, that was the defense was just so lights out. And just to get set up like that, because in the first half, it was kind of defensive grudge match, back and forth, and then got a little momentum there to end the half. And then, starting off the second half with a bang too. And it was just, and then I think we just ran away with it from there.
Now, you guys can't control, I believe the average starting field position for you guys offensively was the plus 44. So phenomenal field position. That doesn't happen, but rarely in college football overall. There's some naysayers out there, and I want your response to this, that say the 241 yards won't cut it for a BYU team going forward. Now, obviously, you guys would like to sustain longer drives, but when you have 44 yards on average to go to score points, you can't control that part of it. What's your response to those people that believe that you guys can't sustain drives that would go longer, let's say 50, 60, 70 yards?
Well, I would say, outside of the first drive where we went 3 and out, we basically drove the length of the field every time we had the opportunity in that game. Mm-hmm. One led to a field goal, and then the other, ended with the Sione Moa touchdown run, and so I think we did pretty well overall with the opportunities we were given to go the length of the field, and I think when we look at our plays as a whole, we averaged almost 5 yards a carry in that game, which Kansas State hasn't given up 5 yards per carry in a game in years, and so really proud of that. And I think obviously you know people who really study the stats and stuff, and I can see why they'd be like, okay, that didn't look like a great game offensively, but honestly, I would think that maybe they either didn't watch the game and they only looked at the box score, or they're just trying to find a way to continue to be negative, which is fine, which is fine. But overall, I feel like we accomplished what we set out to accomplish on offense. We were extremely efficient and opportunistic. We had an explosive play, I think, 1 in every 6 plays in that game, which is a very good ratio. And I thought Jake played really well. I think he started 1 for 5, I
Something
think,
like
to
that,
start
yeah.
the game. Then he ended the game 15 for like 21. So he only threw 2 more incompletions the entire game. And so I thought he did a really good job of playing within the offense, and he was extremely efficient too. So obviously there's all kinds of things that we want to improve on, but to go and say that was a poor game on offense, I think is a little bit ridiculous thing to say. But that's not without errors we made and things that we could have done better for sure. But that would be my response to that. And honestly, I know it was I think we were under 300 yards of total offense in the game, and so I get it. I totally get it. But I think a lot of that had to do with short fields. I think we were really efficient and strong on offense when we needed to be.
3 turnovers, 21 points off, and that's efficiency at its finest there. So I'll just add that little tidbit to it. Now, you guys are nationally ranked now. You're 22nd in the country by virtue of that victory. Give me your response. Do you care about national rankings? You paying attention to any of this?
No, we don't care too much about a national ranking because it's a national ranking in week 4. We're going into week 5. Nobody cares about those rankings. We care about the national rankings at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's a new week and a new game for us. I think, one of the reasons we played well against Kansas State was because we had a really solid week of practice last week. And, the right to play well is earned Monday through Friday. And I think that's something that's been different and really good about this team is, maybe it's just a little more experience, a little more maturity. I don't know. But just the mindset shift of being able to like, okay, Saturday night, had a lot of fun enjoying the win. Went and got my victory swatchos from Bam Bams, did all my stuff. Went home, slept, woke up, went and watched the game, and critiqued myself, then flushed it. Boom. I got my list of things I know I need to improve on. Bam, I was right into Baylor tape, and so it's I think that's and that's what the whole team has done. It was a quick review of the game today with your position group and then immediately on to Baylor stuff because I think we understand that just because we played well against Kansas State gives us no right to perform well against Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
And that right is earned today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then eventually we go play Saturday morning. And so, I thought we had a really clean, crisp walkthrough today. I think guys are understanding that concept and knowing that, like, okay, I have to be dialed in. There's no room for complacency or entitlement just because you won a big game. Congratulations. The good teams, the great teams do that routinely. And so, I think we need to go out, and Kalani made it clear we're going to have a very physical and a very tough practice tomorrow and Wednesday. So again, we can earn that right to be confident and go in and play well against Baylor.
Well, Victory Swatchos are much better than a beefy 5-layer burrito. I will just all right. We will dig more into Baylor coming up next. I want to get Connor's thoughts on going to a place the last time you guys played. You got blitzed pretty good by a guy that's actually now on your team. And we'll dig into that momentarily as you roll on right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Now, 5 Hour Energy is here for you guys to get you the energy you guys need to get through your day. Now, a lot of us have a lot of things on our to-do list on an everyday basis. Some of us like to watch football until the wee hours of the morning, like BYU. Well, if you need to stay up late for something like that, 5 Hour Energy might be the option for you to get through that. Also, they're playing early morning today at 10 a.m. kickoff. If you're listening and watching it here along the Wasatch Front, and 5 Hour Energy can be your answer to keep you awake and keep you that alertness that you can get the things done you need to get done today. With zero sugar, convenient, portable size, it is the perfect pick-me-up for getting your stuff done. They have flavors galore: watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry. There's essentially a flavor for everybody. You can go and build your own 12 or 24-pack with the customized list of flavors that you guys want. So right now, you go to 5hourenergy.com, use the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product for yourself. You can use my promo code that's locked on CFB to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th, so you got a limited time remaining on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. And the code is not good on subscription orders, but go to 5hourenergytoday.com, use that promo code locked on CFB, and get yourself some 5 Hour Energy today. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first view or listen of the day. If you have not done so already, check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast with Drake Toll. You may see a familiar face / hear a familiar voice on that podcast. I actually joined him earlier this week to talk a lot about BYU and a whole lot more. So check out it's Locked On Big 12 wherever you get your podcast. It's also available on YouTube, and it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, continuing on now with Connor Pay, BYU team captain here. And Connor, last time you guys went to Waco, Texas, it was 2021. If I'm not mistaken, you were a redshirt freshman in that game. What do you remember of going down to Waco and playing in McLean Stadium?
I remember giving up a strip sack.
Okay.
I remember BYU fans weren't too happy with me in that moment. But that's my clearest memory.
Surprising. Surprised that would be the most.
No, I think I remember the build up for that game for me individually, having it be my first year, as a starter. And, we had played Utah and ASU and they had some solid D linemen, but this was the first time I was going to go up against a really draftable defensive tackle in Apu Ika.
Mm-hmm.
And some of we're buddies, we've been playing with each other and against each other since high school. And so, I remember it, being a big game for me and trying to go out there and prove myself and prove that I belonged. And, overall, I felt like I played a pretty solid game, probably my best game of the year up until that point. And, we weren't quite good enough that day, a stupid guy named Gary Bohannon kind of tore us up a little bit in that game, with his legs and with his arm. And, we didn't quite have it that day to get it done. So, but no, I remember that day fondly. I remember the environment. It's a cool environment, cool stadium right there on the water. And, it's a fun place to play.
Now you guys are going down there. It's a morning kickoff. It'll be 11 a.m. local time, 10 a.m. on your guys' body clock here in Utah. Gregor Bell put out the stat, Connor. Last 14 day games for you guys as a football program. 2-12 is your record overall. What are you guys going to do to exercise those day game demons, essentially?
I don't know if we're going to do anything different. I think one of the things that's changed is now we have a sports science staff, and they've been adjusting our sleep schedules every week based on game and kick times. Mm-hmm. And so this week I'm supposed to be going to bed by 9:30 to 10 and waking up between 6 and 6:30 every day all week long. Okay. And eating right when I wake up and getting sun on my eyes a little bit and stuff. And so to help us, adjust to that schedule Saturday morning of getting up at 6 or 6:30 and eating right away our pregame meal, because most people aren't used to waking up right away and eating right away. And that can make you feel kind of crappy. And so we're going to be doing that all week, leading up to this game. And so obviously we've made some minor adjustments. But, honestly, with in my memory, the last time we played a game at 10 a.m., we came up slightly short, but we played pretty dang well against Oklahoma. And so I think, we don't think too much about the kick time or anything like that, right? We're focused on our preparation and doing everything we can to prepare to go out and play well, regardless of what, the time is. And our sports science staff is taking care of all that other off the field stuff that is going to help us get ready. They've outlined the plan for us today in our meetings, and our job's to get things done on the field, and they'll handle prepping us off the field.
Now, there used to be a lot more familiar faces on the other sideline, speaking of Baylor, when you had guys like Eric Mateos, Jeff Grimes down there, Clark Barrington, a guy that you know well. The only familiar name that I am aware of is another Barrington brother, Campbell, who will be a starting tackle, if I recall correctly, for Baylor in this game. Do you still have any relationship with Campbell? Do you talk with him at all in the lead up to this game? Have you talked to him at all about this matchup?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Campbell and I were recruited together in high school. We committed together, left on our missions, came into BYU. I came in the fall. He came in January of that next year. So Campbell was one of my closest friends on the offensive line before he left for Waco, and that hasn't changed. And so I talk to him often, and him and his wife, they have a baby girl now, and it's we haven't talked a lot about this game. I doubt our communication is going to be very frequent in the next 4 or 5 days, but just text him after the Colorado game, and say like, hey man, that was a tough one. Just your usual stuff, just reaching out to your friends, making sure they're doing okay. And but no, haven't chatted with him too much about this game specifically.
Now, you guys go into this game ranked 22nd in the country. You talked about what you remember from that 2021 game. I don't know if you remember this, but in 2021, you were ranked 19th heading into Waco, and you mentioned you guys came up short in this one. Is there going to be any thought process of how you approach this game any differently with regards to having a national ranking against the Baylor team, as you mentioned, heartbreaking loss against Colorado on the road last week?
No, I mean the national ranking doesn't mean too much to us because it's a national ranking in week 4, right? Like, and kind of like I mentioned earlier, and I think for us, I think one of the things with this team that has been really good to see, and maybe it comes from maturity, guys just being here a little longer, a lot of returning guys, or I think this team has been really good about flushing the previous week and focusing on the task at hand. We don't let the highs or the lows of the week before affect our preparation for the next game. And I think that's what it's going to take for us to go out there and perform well and win. Is we just got to understand that the notoriety and things that are coming from that win against Kansas State has absolutely zero bearing on this Baylor game. None. Right? And we have to go earn it all week long. We have to go earn the right to be confident. And if we don't do that, then that's not confidence, that's arrogance. Right? Because it's not backed by anything. It's not backed by your preparation. And so I think we're not thinking about anything outside of that, because that's what it takes for us to win. Is that the elite teams have elite preparation. And so that's our focus. I think we had a really good day today. As minimal as it is, it's more of a recovery day, not so much in the sense of recovering from the game still, but we had a heavy lift. We had meetings, and then we went out and we had a quick walkthrough. Nothing too crazy, just base Baylor looks, nothing too specific yet. But we've already made some adjustments to the game plan and other things like that, and guys were able to implement it right away in the walkthrough, and so guys were dialed in, they were focused, and so I thought it was a really good start to the week, and that's what we have to maintain over the next 4 days as we go through to a really physical day tomorrow, really physical day Wednesday, and then sharpening the knife on Thursday and Friday.
Now, real quick on this, Baylor's 2-2, obviously coming off that loss against Colorado. But according to our friends at FanDuel, as well as other sports books around, you guys are still a slight underdog, even though you're the nationally ranked undefeated team. Do you take anything away from that? Does that fire you up at all?
Again, same deal. Where it's like we don't put too much stock into it, and that's why the national ranking doesn't mean that much to us either. It's like, okay, great, we're 22nd in the country, we're still underdogs. Like they still think we're going to lose, and so it's like that. Just like basically every other game this year, they thought we were going to lose, and so I think that's motivating for some guys in the sense of like, hey, like. Yeah, we played well against Kansas State. It's kind of a shocking win to people outside of the building. Didn't come as a surprise to us. Man, there are some people, obviously enough of them that still, don't believe that we're capable of sustaining that. So yeah, we have to go prove to the country that we can do this week in and week out. And I think the things I described earlier are how we can pull that off.
All right, we will get to everybody else's questions for Connor, our weekly listener Q&A with him. We'll get to that momentarily as we roll on right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Now, of course, all of us like to have some fun when it comes to sports. We're all watching them. We're watching hockey right now with Utah Hockey Club, just underway with their preseason. NFL season well underway. College football, we've been talking with Connor Pay. It's almost mid-season, crazily to consider that. But NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return with our friends at FanDuel. They are America's #1 sportsbook. So you get the hunch in the middle of a game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets with our friends at FanDuel. The app is super simple and easy to use. Download it today. But more importantly, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You think BYU is going to blow the doors off of Baylor? Well, take advantage of that today. Go to FanDuel and put the money down on it. You can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your hunch proves correct. That's FanDuel.com to get started today. Once again, that's FanDuel. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first view or listen of the day. If you guys have not done so already, sign up for our Locked On Cougars Insider Group. It gets you the opportunity to ask guys like Connor Pay a question on this podcast. We reserve the right for our Insider Group to be able to do that. So, Connor, let's get into some of these questions. I got a good one here from Ed Norton. Now, Ed's a longtime listener, and he says this. What does Connor make of Bruce Mitchell grading out as the best offensive lineman on the line according to Pro Football Focus? It sounds like we might have some real depth along the offensive line.
Super proud of him. Super proud of him, first off, because that's not an easy first game to come in and get your first start as an offensive lineman after converting from the defensive line. That's not the easiest scenario, but man, Bruce played so well. And obviously we've been practicing with him for weeks now, and so, we had full confidence in him. And, but it's like, sometimes it doesn't feel great when you go into the game and you look on paper and it's like, hey, they're playing their third string right guard. Like that doesn't necessarily feel great. Obviously the guys in the room, we knew what Bruce could do. We were fine. But as that game went on, I never once had the thought of like, oh, I need to change a call here to help Bruce or do this. Bruce doesn't know what he's going to do in this situation. Never once had that feeling. And he played extremely well. After going through and watching the game afterwards, I was just so happy for him. He's worked so hard to learn a new position and, to get a chance to do that and then to grade out so well by PFF and, just couldn't be happier for him, honestly.
Well, he's the pride of South Summit High School, and I got family that's so that he's a stud in their books. There's no doubt about that. All right, next question comes from Jimmy here. Got a question for Connor. Does he or has he ever had opposing coaches or players try to smack talk him or reprimand him when they're shaking hands after a game?
After a game?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I honestly, Coastal Carolina for sure.
Okay.
But that was just everybody against everybody. Like it wasn't a specific coach or player. We had no interest in shaking those guys' hands. They didn't have any interest in shaking ours. We were kind of forced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of just like, get us out of here. And, everyone was saying unsavory things to each other. I'm trying to think if I honestly don't think so.
Okay.
Nothing negative. I'm sure Mateos and Grimes said I looked fat or something after the Baylor game in 2021. I'm sure Grimes probably said that to me or something. I can't remember, but all of it was in a joking manner, obviously, because I love those guys and then they loved us players. So, I haven't honestly been pretty fortunate. I haven't had any real negative experiences with, players and coaches post game. Usually the opposite, honestly.
All right. I like that. Coastal Carolina, man, that game. There's supposed to be a return game on the books, and too bad it's not where any of you guys will be around for it when it happens, if it does. But
I know. I wish we could bring back that 2020 team and play them in LaVell.
Be pretty fun. There's no doubt about that.
I don't even care. I didn't play in that game at all. I don't even care. I'll stand on the sideline and just watch them get absolutely destroyed.
What could have been? Let's just put it that way.
I should have thrown more punches in that game. I was a freshman. I wasn't playing. I was only on field goal. Well, I wasn't doing jack. I should have gone in and thrown some haymakers at that fight before halftime. They can suspend me. That ain't going to matter.
You could have joined Louis Lapuaho, who is forever ingrained in a GIF form by pinching that Boise State player in the boys.
I remember that clip from Louis.
Kind of Kua in the Miami Beach Bowl and the whole sucker punch thing that he's been land. You could have joined that group, that illustrious group, Colin. Come on now.
I could have. I missed an opportunity. It wouldn't have been a great headline. Freshman offensive lineman who sucks and has never played goes out there and starts punching opposing team.
Would have made headlines. There's no doubt about that. Good question here from David. Connor, did you expect Sione Moa to do what he did Saturday night?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I guess there's two sides to that.
Okay.
With how physically he ran, we knew he could do that. We had been watching it in practice. Because honestly, when you come in as a freshman, you're still learning your reads. You're still learning the offense. The one thing you can do is run physical and try to run people over. And so that's what the freshman backs usually try to do. What was really cool to see was how well Sione made his reads. Because that's typically the hard part that takes a little bit of time for guys to get used to. And he was just so smooth with all his reads the whole game, whether it was a 3-yard gain or a 15, 20-yard gain. He was still making those right reads and finding the seams, finding the holes. And so super proud of him, man. He deserves every bit of recognition he's gotten.
Well, I learned this over the weekend, and Kalani was funny about this in his weekly press conferences. Nobody asked me about Sione Moa before the season. Why are you guys asking about him now? Well, it's like, Coach, come on now. When he breaks out, we're gonna ask about him. But I was reading up on this, Connor. I know he played at Timpview, and that's where he came from to BYU from Timpview. But this is a kid who grew up in the Inland Empire of California. Two of the great running backs in the recent memory of BYU fans, Jamal Williams and Tyler Algier. Guess where they're from? Inland Empire of Southern California.
Yeah.
You guys are finding some studs down there in SoCal.
Yeah, it's just, if we can get a one running back commit there per signing class, I'll be a happy camper.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, let's get to two other ones real quick here before we go. Good question from Kent here. Did preparing for this year, going up against BYU's defense, your own defense, help you guys more than last year because this defense looks quite legit?
Yeah. I would say so for sure. I would say, and alongside with that, I think we have some pretty elite scout teams this year. That's one thing that we have a little players meeting every Monday, just to kind of go over some things and kind of set the tone for the week. And one of the things I mentioned to the team in that meeting was how well we thought the scout teams were performing for us. Because it's one thing to go up against your starting defense, right? But you can't do that all the time. It's just too physical to do all week long. You'll have some guys get injured. And so we have those periods. We call them service periods, where, the offense and the defense will service each other, where it's like, hey, we'll run some of the stuff for whoever you're going against that week, and we'll do the same. But just to get that starter level speed and physicality, just so you can feel it. So it's not scout teams all the time, but I said it in our team meeting today, and I think it's true. I think Dallin Johnson is our scout team nose guard right now, and he did a fantastic job preparing me for that Kansas State game. Every Monday he comes in, asks me questions about the film he's watched on the nose guards, how he can replicate it for me. Mm-hmm. And if I'm being honest with you, it was harder to block Dallin in practice than it was to block K-State in the game. And so I think, we had Coach Billick come and speak to the team on Friday before our walkthrough, and that was one of the things he mentioned about that Super Bowl Ravens team. Was he said those practice squads were elite. And he's like, and they were preparing those teams so well. And and so I think along with going against the defense, so you get the speed, you get the physicality of starter level players. Our scout teams have done an amazing job, and they need to continue to do that to prepare us to play. It's been awesome. They've been phenomenal.
Well, that's good to hear. I think that encourages a lot of BYU fans. Now, final question. I've got 6 or 7 of similar sentiment on this question, so I'm going to generalize it here.
Okay.
So apologies if it's not your specific question, but the question is, how loud was it really inside LaVell Edwards Stadium on Saturday night, and how does it compare with other games at LES in your career?
That was definitely a tier 1 game in terms of volume. That's, for me, that game was right on par with Baylor 2022.
Okay.
Utah 2021, ASU 2021. I'm trying to think of some other ones where it was just rocking like that. Those are the ones that come to mind. I think that punt return by Parker may have been the loudest I've heard LaVell Edwards Stadium since I've been here. I think we're trying to improve and get better as it's becoming a Power 4 school now, and I think the fans in LaVell Edwards are stepping up their game too to be a Power 4 crowd, and you saw it in effect with a lot of false start penalties and delay of games and illegal procedures. All of that has to do with them not being able to communicate very well because it was so loud. And so that was a top 3 game for sure.
Oh, it's good to hear. I'll say this. I was sitting in the press box. You mentioned that punt return from Parker. The kind of the rumble that came from the crowd. Absolutely insane. Yeah. And the press box, we're up on that 3rd level of the boxes up there.
The thing's probably moving.
It was moving. And it doesn't move a lot. We're not talking because Camp Randall, I've been to Camp Randall out in there in Wisconsin. That place just moves in general whenever it feels like there's a dull roar. But I'm telling you, it was absolutely rocking when Parker returned that. By the way, did he throw up on anybody? Because
I was very close to it.
Okay.
Because I was going over there to get onto his case for not hanging on to the football. Going to the end zone and be like, hey man, why are they even reviewing this? Hang on to that freaking ball. You can do your little pose, whatever this thing was. You can do your pose to the rock later. Let's hang on to that rock. And mainly in a joking way, I was going to go give him crap for it. And I walked over and there's a couple trainers hunched over next to him. And I was like, oh man, did he maybe pull a hammy or something or sprain an ankle on that return? I was like, oh no. And then I saw him lean over the bench and just hurl right as I was walking up to him. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. He just ran 150 yards in a dead sprint. Yeah, he was feeling it. But then he got it all out. 5 minutes later, he was feeling good again. So,
hey, better out than in, as they always say. So,
absolutely.
All right, well, Connor, best of luck against Baylor this week. Fingers crossed, you guys are 5-0 when we talk next week, and keep the good vibes rolling. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Connor. I'm Jake. A big thank you to all of you for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. Hope you guys have a fantastic day whenever you're here and or watch this. Of course, thank you for making it your first listen today. And as always, thank you for being everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.